Good evening, everybody. I'm Fictional Crystals, and is Keith gay? Like Lance being bi, Keith being gay is a really popular headcanon. But like with bi Lance, does gay Keith have any evidence? That's what we're here to find out. Firstly, is Voltron even allowed to have LGBT rap? I've already said all of this in my bisexual Lance video. It's literally going to be a repeat of the same clips. If you've already seen that, feel free to skip ahead to about 6 minutes and 20 seconds into the video. If you didn't hear all of this in the bisexual Lance video, keep on watching. Before I begin, let me just say that I'm not the kind of person who just label sexualities on characters with no evidence. I'll never assume without some kind of indication. I'm also going to be talking about some ships in this video, which is a touchy subject in the Voltron fandom particularly. Ship wars are one of my least favorite things in fandoms, and I'd hate to see people attacking each other in the comments because of it. Personally, I'm not much of a shipper. I treat ships the same way I do theories. I really only ship things with evidence, and some crag ships just for fun. I enjoy some ships in fanon, but when it comes to canon, I'm very picky. I never simply see two characters next to each other, think they look cute, and automatically ship it. Also meaning a popular opinion on a ship or anything doesn't affect me unless I logically see it too. I'm pretty critical, and I only care about a ship becoming canon as much as I do a theory becoming canon. Basically, casual shipping really isn't my thing, though theories are. That's how I'll be viewing the pairs in this video, not as ships but as theories. So I'm really sorry if I talk bad about your ship in this video. I promise it's nothing personal. Carry on with your lives, you can forget this exists. Anyway, that being said, let's get to the actual subject. VOD's executive producers are Joaquim Dos Santos and Lawrence Montgomery. Before Voltron, they were already well known for their work on Nickelodeon's The Legend of Korra, sequel series to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Spoiler warning now if you haven't seen The Legend of Korra. Aside from Voltron's executive producers working on Korra, a lot of the other VOD crew members were a major part of Legend of Korra too. Heck, before its name was revealed to be Voltron Legendary Defender, it was referred to as Korra 2.0 by the Korra crew. For the most part, Avatar and Korra had straight couples, until Korra Asami came along, the ship between Korra's main character Avatar Korra and business lady Asami Sato. Korra and Asami are two canon bisexual characters and a couple. Them being confirmed canon was an extremely pivotal thing for children's television. Korra being on Nickelodeon, and rated Y7, and airing in 2014 before gay marriage was legalized in all 50 states, meant it had restrictions. It was uncharted territory at the time. Nothing explicitly romantic between the two was allowed to be shown. That was until the comics. Yet they still managed to make it work on TV. Without Korra Asami, we might not have gotten where we are now. With LGBT rep in children's programming, things have changed since 2014. Same-sex couples and LGBT characters are much more widely accepted within children's media. They're getting more common by the day. Let's see. Steven Universe has many canon LGBT characters and healthy same-sex couples. Adventure Time has Bubbling, Enid and OKKO, and several other Cartoon Network shows have had minor LGBT characters and couples. Nickelodeon of course had Korra Asami, and now there's Loud House. Even Disney has had several LGBT characters, from the Moms in Good Luck Charlie to these two in Gravity Falls, the kissing in Star vs. the Forces of Evil, LeFou in the new Beauty and the Beast movie, and most recently an actual coming out scene. There is likely to be more that I've forgotten. Positive reactions from viewers have come out of most of these. Joaquim and Lauren believe that LGBT rep is extremely important, and it's something they fight for. They were thrilled with the ending of The Legend of Korra, and know many fans were too.
Just it's time to kind of move forward and just be more accepting. People are people. It takes all types. So let's just embrace it.
Yeah. Do you see Voltron being able to take that?
We can both say we were very proud to have been a part of that show.
Do you see Voltron being able to take that same kind of leap?
I think so. I mean, you know, we have this first 13 episodes, but if we're able to take it beyond that, you know, I think, you know, we both like to kind of push the envelope a little bit and just see what we can do, because I think the world is a different place, and we just wanna kind of represent more people.
Many people in the Voltron fandom have seen Korra and are LGBT. They jump ship from show to show. Lauren and Joaquim, I'm sure, are well aware of this. They know their audience. Lauren and Joaquim aren't people who would queerbait. This interview made that known. Not only is rap important to them, but also them queerbaiting would be a massive blow on DreamWorks. The fanbase would rage and try to give them a bad name. Unfortunate but true. Voltron having LGBT characters wouldn't be a first for DreamWorks. DreamWorks. The How to Train Your Dragon franchise has a canon gay character.
This is why I never married. This and one other reason.
And a few others speculated to be LGBT.
Gangster. I loved you. You broke my heart, Thor. You broke it right in two.
DreamWorks is happy to have LGBT rep. So are the showrunners, and Netflix is too. Netflix has much less restrictions than normal television. Netflix lets them get away with things Nickelodeon wouldn't. Still not convinced that they'd include LGBT rep? Well, just look at some stuff they said on the topic. The no comment from Tim Hedrick makes it especially clear to me that there will be LGBT rep. You could just say no to the interviewer if there wasn't going to be any. That way, people wouldn't get their hopes up. Yet he just said no comment and that he let it play out. Jeremy Shader, Lance's voice actor, also said on the topic of LGBT rap to a fan, "Don't worry, you'll be happy." Pretty clear indicator that there will be explicit LGBT rap. The crew is very secretive about what their LGBT rap will be. Much too secretive for it to just be a minor character. It's 2017, almost 2018. Netflix doesn't have major restrictions. And the crew are open to LGBT. If they're doing this, they're not going small. For them to act so secretive about who and when that rap will be means it's probably a main character or several main characters that are LGBT. Anyway, expressions on Voltron have purposes. Each one is done for a reason, like everything else in animation. Here's what Lauren Montgomery and Joaquim dos Santos, VLD's executive producers, have said on the topic of expressions.
The facial expressions that you see with all of the characters, can you tell me a little bit more about like how that process goes? Like when do you decide like there's going to be something here?
It just depends on what the story is. Like if we know that a character, is feeling something about that moment, especially if we know there's something coming up down the line that maybe hasn't been revealed, but that it would make that character feel a certain way, we try to insert in there and not do it.
Keith, unlike Lance or Hunk, hasn't shown explicit interest in anyone at all. He doesn't gush over who he likes unlike them, or blush constantly, or do over-the-top flirting. But that doesn't mean he hasn't shown any romantic interest at all. Keith is more reserved than Hunk or Lance. He doesn't open up to many people easily. He wouldn't straight up fawn over someone to their face like others would. The way Keith shows how he truly feels is subtle. You have to look at his expressions especially to figure it out. Just the small things he does. Then you'll be able to see that Keith has had crushes on the show, just never on girls. Let's start with Rolo. Keith checked him out in the episode Taking Flight. It was brief, but still there. Everything in animation has a purpose, like I said before. The animators decided to have Keith, out of all of the paladins, who were right near him too, be the one to smile at Rolo like that, and decided that this was necessary to include in the first place. Keith isn't much of a smiler, yet we see him smiling randomly at a guy, for no particular reason other than that he's there. Taking Flight set up the romances for these four, and alluded to their sexualities. Hunk was determined to see Shay, and she was teased to be his girlfriend. Pidge's love is technology. Lance showed interest in girls. Keith showed interest in a guy. And there was some stuff between these two which I'll talk about later on. Another case of Keith hitting on a guy is in the episode The Belly of the Weblum. Keith leaned on Hunk's chair, hand on hip, smile on face, while complimenting Hunk. I might have said this was meant to be simple friendliness if it weren't for his body language. They could have just had Keith stand beside his chair without leaning over and smiling. The show has done compliments without making them seem flirty before. Leaning towards the person you're flirting with is a signature flirtatious pose. It shows that you want to get closer with the person. Lance uses the same sort of technique to try to look cool, always around the ladies he wants to impress. The lean, the smile, eyes locked on the character they're interested in, it's all there. Keith's tone and mood changed when complimenting Hunk. He made his voice deeper, yet softer, slower, and more welcoming. A thing a lot of guys do to look cool.
Won't matter after we defeat Zarkon.
Copy that.
By the way, Hunk.
Once again, Lance has done this before while flirting.
I'm Lance, and you're right here in my arms.
Season 2 overall felt like a real eye-opener to Keith's sexuality. Yes, Season 2 was about Keith's collar reveal, and him dealing with that. The later part of the season was very much about race. There were references to racism and him coming to terms with his races. That was clear to see, and obviously the main message of it. Yet it really felt like there was more to it. Some of the things said don't fit the category of race whatsoever. I'm mixed race myself, and I have never heard any of these things said to anyone in regards to race in my life. Some people might have. I'm not saying people have never used these in regards to race before, but from my experiences, what I have heard these things in regards to is sexuality. Replace the word galra with gay, it makes a lot more sense.
Galra Keith is way funnier than regular Keith.
Gay Keith is way funnier than regular Keith.
I think turning galra has made you a better human.
I think turning gay has made you a better human. People often act like being gay changes your personality completely, even though you're still the same person as you were before you came out to them.
Also, he's galra.
What, do you guys all know each other?
Do all gay people know each other? Sometimes a joke non-LGBT people use when they see several LGBT people in one place.
I didn't just turn galra!
I didn't just turn gay. When LGBT people come out and people who thought they were straight beforehand think they just turned gay, they didn't.
I'm coming out.
Season 2 frightened many people with the possibility of a Keith x Allura romance. They were put in some pretty tropey situations, Allura falling into Keith's arms, and them floating around in space together. These are things commonly used to set up attraction between two characters. It doesn't help that Keith and Allura used to be a canon couple in previous versions of Voltron. However, Voltron Legendary Defender managed to spin this trope around. This could have been set up for a Keith x Allura romance. But in fact, it did the exact opposite. I mentioned earlier that all the character expressions are done on purpose. They can give a nod to something that hasn't been revealed.
If we know that a character, is feeling something about that moment, especially if we know that there's something coming up down the line that maybe hasn't been revealed, but that it would make that character feel a certain way, we try to insert in there and not do it.
Floating around together isn't always inherently romantic. And the way Keith looked at Allura wasn't romantic in the slightest. He frowned the whole time. At first, he pulled his hands into fists, not even holding hers. He could have smiled to try to cheer her up. He could have smiled to lighten the mood and make her feel more comfortable. He didn't though. At the very least, if you wanted to make him look somewhat happy to hold her, give him a shocked expression or even neutral, not entirely unamused. Keith is tight-starved. Physical contact is an important thing for him, yet he doesn't savor cradling Allura in his arms. Nor does he look happy to do so. He doesn't give so much as a gasp. But when it comes to cradling Lance in his arms, or getting touched by him, his reaction to the contact is certainly different.
We had a bonding moment! I cradled you in my arms!
When Allura fell into Lance's arms, he blushed. When Matt saw Allura look at his reaction, Keith was absolutely deadpan. Not a nervous stutter, a blush, or a surprised face. He reacts to a guy he just met with a happy smile. He's known Allura for months, yet he doesn't smile at her like that. Or at any female I can recall. He's smiled at Pidge a few times before, but those were in group situations. He wasn't the only one smiling. Compare his current version to his 80s version. When Allura touched him in the 80s version, he stuttered and blushed. Now his reaction is just nope. Keith isn't romantically interested in Allura or females unlike his previous versions. He's a no bueno for the ladies, as Lance put it in the Voltron Paladin Handbook. The two of them typically like to keep their distance, especially when you compare it to their one-on-one conversations with others. They're much less casual with each other, normally only interacting because it's necessary. Voltron Legendary Defender does take elements from its older versions. I've made whole videos on the similarities and references, but it's still a different show from 80s Voltron. They're allowed to change things and have major changes. For example, in Defender of the Universe, Keith never piloted the Red Lion. He was never part Galra before either. 80s Voltron was hardly set in space. They were almost always on the same planet. Pidge's gender changed, Shiro's role changed, a lot changed. I don't see why they couldn't change Keith's love interest. It wasn't that major of a part of the original anyway. There were bigger parts of the original that didn't make it into the new version. There were times when they were left alone together in season 1. There were opportunities to ease us into a potential romance between them early on, and they did nothing.
Keith?
No thanks.
Another reason why I don't think current Keith is interested in Allura is because he was willing to leave her behind twice. First with the Galra, second when she was lagging behind in blue. How often do you see a character not want to save someone they like? Or simply someone they're close to, not necessarily a love interest? Keith was willing to drop everything to look for Shiro, no matter the consequences. Why not Allura? In the original, he would rush to save her no matter the circumstance. He doesn't do that anymore.
It's not you, Princess Allura. It's me.
I'm not trying to discourage you if you ship them. Keep on what you're doing. I'm just stating what I think is up with them. Anyway, carrying on. Color symbolism is an important part of media. It's used to convey moods, notions, feelings, and other things. I highly recommend looking it up. It's very common for shows and movies. Studio Mir, the animators for VLT, have used it before in The Legend of Korra. They notably used it in the Korra series final by incorporating the bi-pride flag colors into the mountains and sky. They used the bi-colors at a key point in Korra and Asami's relationship. They are two canonically bisexual characters. Voltron has used the bi-pride flag colors like this, normally with Lance scenes / episodes, and they're almost always accompanied by the gay pride flag colors in the form of a rainbow. On the topic of Lance, his initial rivalry with Keith was a good opportunity to have Keith show interest in girls. By having him interested in the same girls as Lance, their rivalry would have been played up. Lance did think Keith was interested in some of the same girls as him. He never was. It was never a part of why they fought. Now we come to what might be the biggest indicator of Keith's feelings for guys. Keith and Allura now are different to Keith and Allura then. Look at the way Keith smiled at her back then. It was fond. Upturned eyebrows, a soft smile. Compare his face at Allura being safe to the others. His signature soft smile at the one he likes continued into Legendary Defender. The smiles aren't directed at Allura anymore. They're at Lance.
She did it! Atta girl!
I got your lion back. Thank you, Keith.
The way Keith smiles at Lance is the same way Lance smiles at those he's interested in. This soft smile, upturned eyebrows expression is used to show love, pride, or thankfulness, or some combination of the three, both in the current version and the 80s. In this situation, he's not being prideful or thankful. Lance got his lion stolen and he had to get it back. He wouldn't be thankful or filled with pride because Lance did that. Same goes for this situation, leaving one explanation. Most of the time, this kind of expression is used for love anyway. Okay, first, let's start at the start of their relationship in Legendary Defender. Keith hardly remembered Lance from the garrison. Lance was the one who initiated their rivalry. Keith merely played along. He wasn't interested in Lance. Lance was being rude to him. Why would he like someone doing that? After a few bonding exercises, their relationship got a little better. Keith acted low-key flirty to Lance on one occasion. Again, you could tell he was being flirty from body language, expression, and tone. The raised eyebrow can also be an indicator of playful behavior.
When my head hits the pillow, I'm gonna be lights out.
But it wasn't something big for him. It wasn't a full-on crush at that point. It was the same as what he felt for Hunk and Rolo. He was acting flirty to guys, but it wasn't something he was going to pursue or think about much. Just a one-time hit-on kind of thing like Lance has done before. He didn't have enough of a connection with Lance yet to think it could go any further. That changed in Season 1, Episode 5, the bonding moment. This is arguably one of the most romantic coded scenes in the entire show. They had Keith go straight to help Lance first. They were still considered so-called rivals at this point, yet they sat there holding hands, staring into each other's eyes, smiling with soft music playing and purple lighting. It's not only basic romantic lighting, it's a mix between their colors red and blue. There were so many ways to make this not seem romantic. The two of them didn't interact the whole rest of the episode, yet we're given this "we are a good team" moment at the end. Not to mention this scene parallels two others on the show, one with Hunk and Shay, who everyone knows is meant to be viewed as a romantic coded pair, in the same episode as the bonding moment, I might add, and one with Lance and Allura in Season 4. We know Lance has a crush on Allura.
Are you okay? Lance, are you okay?
If you view either of these things as romantic, the bonding moment is too. This was the scene where Keith fell for Lance. It was important, and the show made us remember that by bringing it up twice in the next episode. Keith felt like he had made a connection in that moment, which is a hard thing for him to do, so he held on to what he had. Keith let Lance through his walls. He was desperate to get Lance out of the healing pod so he could start a new chapter with him. Then he saw Lance flirt with Allura. He thought Lance was going to start something good with him after this, and then this happened. Keith pushes people away before they reject him. He's scared of getting close to people in case they don't want to get close to him. After the bonding moment, Lance didn't show any interest in wanting to bond with Keith to Keith's face until Season 3. Instead, he just went around flirting with random girls. Lance has shown interest when Keith's not able to see, but Keith doesn't know that, so he's prepping himself for disappointment with Lance. He doesn't want his hopes up with someone he thinks won't reciprocate. He knows about his feelings, but he tries not to think about them. He was disappointed that Lance said he didn't remember the bonding moment. The lines under his eyes meant he was feeling bad. It's a normal thing cartoons use to indicate that. The bonding moment meant something to Keith, but Lance made it seem like it didn't mean anything to him. That hurt Keith. It was only after the bonding moment that Keith started acting annoyed by Lance's flirting with girls. He didn't care about him flirting with Allura before that. When he sees Lance flirting with Allura or Naima or talking about girls in the comics, look at his reactions. He normally either pouts or looks irritated. Expressions are everything. A different side of Keith comes out when he's with Lance.
What's that? You're cutting out. I can't hear you.
Like that?
He doesn't look at or act like this with any other character. His mood can completely change with Lance. More often than not, Keith listens to Lance and can hang on to what he says.
No, you're thinking of yourself because you're too scared to do what's right. You're only thinking of yourself as usual.
In season 3, Keith had to become the Black Paladin. He wouldn't accept the role despite what everyone else was telling him. And after he did, he still wouldn't listen to them. The only one he would listen to in the situation was Lance. Lance is Keith's stability. Keith puts up a cold exterior. Lance is one of the few people Keith has shown his vulnerability to. During the bedroom scene, Keith's face lit up when he found out Lance wanted to talk to him. He was looking forward to a proper conversation with Lance as a friend. He was excited that Lance chose him to talk to. When Lance said he was talking to him because he was the leader, Keith's face immediately dropped. And when Lance suggested to leave the team, you could hear genuine concern in Keith's voice.
Maybe the best thing I can do for the team is step aside.
What are you talking about?
I have no right to pilot any of the lions anymore.
Are you kidding?
The leave the math to pitch line wasn't supposed to mean that Lance is bad at math. It was Keith assuring Lance of his role on the team, and it made Lance think. That's why he stopped outside the door. Keith already knows about his feelings for Lance. He's open to getting close to him, as long as Lance is willing to. This last line was him acting on his feelings. He wasn't talking to Lance as a mere teammate, instead as a friend. Keith wants Lance to be okay. They make an effort of showing Keith angry whenever Lance gets hurt by someone. He's the one to run up after Lance gets hit or is in trouble. They make an effort of getting him to save him most often. It's what writers get their characters to do a lot, to the one the character is close to or the one the character likes. The paladins of old are meant to mirror the paladins of today. Zarkon was speechless at the sight of Unnerva, his future wife at the time. In the episode before this was Keith at Lance. Stopping mid-battle to look at someone who just saved their life is a common romantic trope. In conclusion, Keith is gay.
Man, you are cuddly.
Thank you.
He's shown interest and disinterest in people throughout the series. Subtle, yet still there. He's aware he's into dudes.
I know who I am.
Unlike Lance, who was still figuring things out and overcompensating.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, are you?
I often talk about Keith and Lance's relationship in my videos. That's because romantically or platonically, their dynamic has been and still is important to their character growth. They've always been set up as a duo. They've had impactful moments with each other. They balance each other out, no matter how you view it. Romantically, platonically, or plain hatred. It's a key thing for both of them. Even if Keith doesn't turn out to be gay, hopefully this video at least helped you gain a better understanding on why a lot of people believe he is. But anyway, thanks for watching and hasta la later, Keith.
I'm coming out.